All right, today we're going to talk about Meso 4SC, which is part of our regenerative home turf system as a weed control. And so, whenever we're thinking about weed controls, particularly ones that are post-emergent, so post-emergent would be weeds that have come up and you see them. Pre-emergent would be weeds that we're dealing with, such as crabgrass preventers, where we're trying to get to the weeds before they come up. So, unlike what I'll call store-bought programs that focus on dealing with post-emergent weeds by doing a blanket across the board granular chemical application, we really stress the benefits of spot treatment for a variety of reasons. One is we're going to use a lot less chemicals. So the majority of lawns are only about 10% weeds. So why spread chemical over 100% of the lawn when it only needs 10%? Tied in with that, we're also going to save money because we're not using all the chemical that we need. And I think this is the third one's really important, is that weeds are always growing. So when you put that blanket chemical application down that you might typically find in the second round of a store-bought program, basically, you're going to get those weeds at the time they're coming up, but weeds are growing throughout the year. And so like there's weeds like what you see here. This was taken in the fall, and so those weeds were up. But otherwise we would have done a spring treatment. And so a lot of people, what they like about the spot treatment is every time they're cutting their grass and they're seeing weeds, they can come back then and just spot treat those areas where the weeds are. So we're using less chemical, but we're also dealing with weeds on a more consistent basis throughout the year, as well as saving money. Spot treatment's really easy. You're basically, especially with this Meso product, you're basically just going to hit the weeds one by one. Just hit them like you're just kind of like shooting a gun at them. Really easy, really fast. One of the things that we do recommend is having a decent sprayer. If you've got, a chintzy $11 sprayer that you bought, that pumping can get really cumbersome. We've got two things that you can consider. One would be our Branch Creek pump sprayer, which is the sprayer that you see here. That is usually sells for around $50. And then we have what's called our Branch Creek pump free system. So it's the same pump sprayer, but we've got a rechargeable lithium battery that replaces the manual pump. So then there's no pumping whatsoever. And so you can really move across the yard really fast. So even if you do the less expensive manual pump version, it's going to be a much higher quality than maybe what you already have in your garage. But regardless of whether you use one of our sprayers or one of your sprayers, we would recommend a fan tip nozzle for weed control. But definitely, if you've got some money to spend, that pump-free system with the battery-powered head is a great, great tool. So getting into the product itself, we're always looking for the least toxicity possible. So Meso is really, really low. So it's got an EIQ score of 2.3 points. And keep in mind that if we're talking about a yard that's only 10% weeds, we're talking about 10% of that EIQ score. So very, very low toxicity when it comes to the Meso. And part of that reason is it actually is derived from a bottle brush tree. Basically, this product was discovered as a potential way to control weeds by a scientist who noticed that weeds weren't growing under this particular tree. So the low toxicity is definitely a reason why we recommend this product. So it's going to give us post-emergence control of over 40 weeds. No product is going to control every weed out there, but Meso will give you a lot of range. So any crabgrass that maybe gets through your pre-emergent application of crabgrass prevention, you're going to look at clover, yellow nutsedge, dandelion. So a lot of different weeds that you're going to be able to control with Meso once they come out of the ground. You can also use Meso as a pre-emergent for crabgrass prevention. So you maybe think, well, why would you do that? Because you more than likely have already applied a pre-emergent product like our crabgrass preventer with most fertilizer and Triforce. And one of the main reasons would be along like sidewalk edges, curb lines, or maybe that curb stripping that you have between your street and your yard where you can't, it's only like 2 feet wide. There's places where you're not going to be able to get a granular fertilizer down. If you think about like a granular product, you usually would overlap. So you go down and you come back, and then the particles overlap up against an uneven or up against an edge of like a sidewalk or a driveway. We're not going to have that ability to overlap. In addition, because of things like salt runoff from your driveways in winter months, The soil is also already really bad along those driveway edges. You take soil that's already struggling more so than the rest of the yard, and then you only give it, one pass, if you will, of that granular pre-emergent. Being able to spray a product like Meso along that sidewalk or driveway edge just gives you a little extra protection for a very low cost. So that's another nice tool that Meso brings. One of the things that's really important with Meso is that you understand if you see the weed turn white, that means it's working. I think that's one of the cool things about Meso, but the weeds are going to turn white. And if you just have a few weeds in your yard, you probably wouldn't hardly notice them. But if you, like, say you have a newer yard and you have a lot of weeds, your lawn can end up looking like this, which again, white means it's working, but you can also kind of get freaked out if you didn't know that that's what's going to happen to your yard. So one of those things where you set an expectation, it's cool, but if you don't, people are kind of wondering what the heck they did to their yard. So this is a good sign. The other thing with Meso, in addition to being lower on the toxicity scale, it's also a really low use rate, which is a contributing factor to the low use rate. So little that you probably are going to question, seriously, is that all I'm doing? So the product itself is going to come with like this syringe, and basically the application is really easy. If you're doing 1 gallon of mix, you're going to put 1 gallon of Meso into the syringe. So very, very little product being used. And so, definitely something you want to be mindful of is how long this product is going to last. And so one of the downsides is, 8-ounce container of Meso, if you have a 1-acre property, could last you 3 years. It's very easy for that to happen. So unfortunately, we don't sell it in sizes smaller than 8 ounces, but it's a good value, particularly when you can consider how long it's going to be around. So this is a terrific product and one that we really feel good about being a part of our regenerative home turf system. So the other nice thing about Meso is there's no seeding restrictions. So a lot of post-emergent and pre-emergent herbicides are going to kill, they're going to keep trying to keep anything from germinating, including new grass seed. So with Meso, we don't have that issue. So there might be times of the year where you're looking to control weeds and also maybe get a grass seed like our evolution seed started. With Meso, you're going to be able to use those two in tandem, and you wouldn't necessarily be able to do that with other pre or post-emergent herbicides that would be available in the market. So that's all I have for Meso. If there's any questions, certainly be in touch. Thank you.